Hey everybody, Qroo here. Welcome to the channel. You know, a very common expression in English is, let me know something, right? Let me know what time you get home. Let me know if John calls, etc. Because it's so common in English, when us English speakers start to learn Spanish, that's one of the things we want to translate right away. And, you know, when you first start learning a language, the tendency is to translate it literally from your language to the target language. So we end up with things like, déjame saber, which is a literal translation and comes from the verb dejar, which means to let or allow. The problem is that that usage is not considered correct Spanish. If you wanted to say something like, let me know when you leave, the correct way to do that would be with using the verb hacer with saber. It would be like, make me know. But we're going to put it in the imperative, also known as the command form. And we're going to end up with something like, hazme saber cuando te vayas. Hazme saber cuando te vayas. Let me know when you leave, when you go. Another option is to use the Spanish verb avisar, which, if you think of it, sounds like advise, right? But don't think of it as like advising someone as in counseling them. Thinking of it as advise them as in informing them, okay? We're still going to use this in the imperative or command form. Avísame cuando te vayas. Avísame cuando te vayas. You know, I know my viewers, so I know there's a few folks out there who are saying, wait a minute, Paul. I've heard déjame saber. In fact, I think I've heard some songs that go déjame saber something. So native speakers are using it. Yes, native speakers are using it in some areas, but it's still not considered correct Spanish. You're likely to hear that construction from speakers who grew up in areas where there was a lot of English influence over the Spanish. For example, native speakers who grew up in the US, they tend to pick this up. Also, it's very common in Puerto Rico. I'll hear a lot of people from Puerto Rico use déjame saber, but there's also a lot of English influence on the Spanish spoken in Puerto Rico. The thing is, the native speakers can get away with saying it, right? Even if they travel and they use déjame saber, and a Spanish speaker's like, wait a minute, that's not right. You know, it's hazme saber. And they can be like, oh, I'm from Puerto Rico, so that's just how we say it. So they can get away with that. But if it's not your first language and you travel outside of one of those areas, you're going to get called out on it. So might as well just learn the right way to say it. Now, I could have just ended the lesson right here because really that was the meat and potatoes. I already gave you that part. But some of you detail-oriented folks might have some questions about those examples I gave you earlier. Remember those? They're on the screen. Hazme saber cuando te vayas and avísame cuando te vayas. So we have a couple different things going on here. One of them is the use of irse for to go away, right? To leave a place. And that throws people off because they're like, I thought it should be salir. If you're struggling with that, I recently did a video comparing irse and salir. I suggest you watch it right after this one. The other thing that really stands out here is that conjugation of irse, right? We have te vayas, instead of te vas. Is that what you were expecting? Te vas, because it is the present tense, right? Well, it's the present indicative tense. But the problem is this particular construction requires us to use the present subjunctive tense, and that's where te vayas comes in. If you don't have any idea what the subjunctive is, we do have it in English, but it doesn't play such a crucial role like it does in Spanish. You really need to learn the subjunctive if you ever hope to master Spanish. Fortunately, I have a playlist for you called Subjunctive Triggers. You can find a link to it in the description section of this video. I actually call it subjunctive triggers because there's certain grammatical constructions that are going to trigger the use of the subjunctive. It's going to be mandatory, and this is one of them. And basically the breakdown is, whenever you have a clause depending on another event occurring first, the event that has to occur first will be in the subjunctive. And honestly, that description sounds a lot more complex than it actually is, all right? It's not going to be that bad. One of our key words that we're going to be looking for is the word cuando in there. That's a good indicator that something has to occur first before something else occurs. Take a look at this sentence. Let me know when you have the information. When are you going to let me know? When you have the information. So what has to occur first before you let me know? You have the information. So that's going to be in the subjunctive, right? Hazme saber cuando tengas la información. Or avísame cuando tengas la información. It's tengas. It comes from the verb tener, but it's in the subjunctive. I think one of the best ways to learn Spanish as an adult is to break it down into some simple plug-and-play phrases that are a lot easier to remember. And this fits right into that, okay? So on your word list, I suggest you write it just like this, okay? Hazme saber cuando plus subjunctive, and avísame cuando plus subjunctive. That's it. That's easier to remember, right? You'll know that you're always going to use the subjunctive with these particular clauses. Just to be clear, that's because we have that cuando in there and something has to occur first before we're advised. If we're just using these expressions without cuando, and it's like, you know, let me know if you love me, hazme saber si me quieres, that's not going to apply, all right? We're talking about let me know when something else occurs, subjunctive. You want to go ahead and try a few of these on your own? I know you guys love exercises. How about this one? Let me know when you arrive. Let me know when you arrive. Hazme saber cuando llegues, or avísame cuando llegues. And it's llegues, right? Not llegas. Why? Subjunctive. We have to use the subjunctive there. Here's another one for you. Let me know when you want to go to the beach. Hazme saber cuando quieres ir a la playa. Or avísame cuando quieras ir a la playa. All right, last one. Let me know when Juan calls you. Let me know when Juan calls you. Hazme saber cuando Juan te llame. Or avísame cuando Juan te llame. Wow, piece of cake, right? Well, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If you did, just do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. And until next time, hasta luego.